Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us here today for our third episode of Self Mastery Sessions. So, I am Lisa Drew, Self Mastery coach, author, speaker, educator, and we're just reading questions today and going over some insights about a little bit what's underneath the surface of these questions. So let's get started. Thank you for joining us today. This is for entertainment purposes only. So any information or advice that you apply, that is totally up to you. And we all need to make informed decisions. So do any research that you need to back it up. This is for entertainment purposes only. So, scenario 1. Why does their silence affect me so much? Well, first, I have a question for you. Have you ever sent a text message and watched your entire emotional state change because someone didn't respond or didn't respond soon enough? 1 hour passes, 3 hours, 6 hours, and suddenly you go from calm to concerned, concerned to frustrated, and frustrating to creating a Netflix documentary in your head about why they're ignoring you. Well, that brings me to our first question. Dear Coach Drew, whenever my partner gets upset, they shut down and stop talking. The longer they stay silent, the more anxious and frustrated I become. Sometimes I create stories in my head about what they're thinking or feeling. How do I stop letting their silence control my emotions? Great question. So, one of the greatest sources of emotional suffering is not what happened. It's what we imagine happened. Yeah, the story that we assign to it, right? Most people are not upset by reality. We get upset by the story that we create about reality. So, in reality, your partner's silence may just mean that they need time to think or they're busy, but our mind translates silence into rejection. The mind hates unanswered questions, and it would rather invent an explanation than sit with uncertainty, even if it's a painful explanation, right? Self-mastery begins when we realize the facts and assumptions are not the same thing. Facts and assumptions are not the same thing. Now, we know this logically, but in that moment, when our fight or flight is kicking in, our heart is racing, our mind starts spiraling, we don't actually know that. The fact is they haven't responded. Everything else is a story. The longer we live inside stories instead of facts, the more power we give away. So remember, the goal is not to control others' behaviors. The goal is to stop allowing your peace to depend on it. Facts are friends. Assumptions are troublemakers. And not everything that you think is true deserves a seat at your table. And remember, guys, silence is information. It's not necessarily rejection. So this week, I want you to notice every time that you create a story without evidence, and I want you to ask yourself, what do I really know about this situation? What are the facts? And you may discover that peace lives in the facts while anxiety lives in the fiction. Okay, scenario 2. Why am I jealous of my friend's success? So question, have you ever been genuinely happy for someone and secretly annoyed at the same time? They got promoted, bought a house, launched a business, found love, and suddenly you're questioning your entire life. Here's the question. Dear Coach Drew, one of my closest friends seems to be succeeding in every area of life. I love them and want the best for them, but I can't ignore the jealousy I feel sometimes. Why does their success bother me so much? The age-old question. So, one thing that people don't like to admit is that we rarely get upset just because someone else is winning or succeeding at something. We tend to get upset because their success is shining a light on our own deficiencies, on the goals that we've delayed, on the things that we're not pursuing. So jealousy is often unexpressed desire. The problem is all of that gets pushed to the back because then we feel guilty for being jealous, then we question, are we a bad person? And we are going down the wrong spiral. So jealousy, it often points to something that we want, but we haven't yet gone after or claimed. The problem is that many people use comparison as a weapon instead of a compass. Comparison asks, why them? Growth will ask, what can I learn? Someone else's success is not proof that you are failing, and life is not a pie. Their slice and their achievement does not make your portion any smaller. There's enough opportunity, enough abundance, and enough success about everyone. That's the logical answer. But again, in that moment, you're thinking of all the things that you're not going after. So make a plan and go after those goals, and you'll stop feeling that jealousy. So comparison keeps score, growth takes notes. Your journey is not behind schedule, and jealousy often points towards your next level. So the next time you feel jealous, don't judge yourself. Get curious. Ask, what is this emotion trying to teach me about what I truly want? Sometimes envy is a simple ambition, a simple next level wearing a disguise. Scenario 3. Why do I keep exploding over small things? Imagine carrying 10 heavy bags all day. Then someone hands you a feather. And somehow that's the thing that breaks you. Was it really the feather? Dear Coach Drew, I recently lost my temper with my child over something small. Afterwards, I felt guilty because I knew my reaction didn't match what happened. Why do I keep overreacting, and how can I stop? I'll start off with this. Most emotional reactions are not about the present moment. They are about accumulated moments. The forgotten self-care, the stress from work, the lack of sleep, the financial worries, the pressure you've been carrying. Then when life bumps you, whatever is inside comes out. People often blame the person who bumped them because that's what we think the catalyst was. But if coffee comes out of the cup, it's because coffee was already inside. If you guys don't know that story, there's a man standing in a coffee shop. He was heading to his table. Someone rushes in and bumps him. The question is, why does coffee spill from the cup? Coffee spilled from the cup because coffee was in the cup. Not because of the bump, not because of carelessness. It was coffee in the cup. If it was juice in the cup, juice would have spilled. If it was water in the cup, water would have spilled. Whatever is inside of us when we are bumped is what is going to come out. So we have got to stop having those days, those weeks, those months where we have stress inside of our cup and we keep pushing it down, adding more, pushing it down, and not cleaning it out. Because when we are bumped, it is going to explode. Whatever is inside of you is going to come out when you get bumped. If calm comes out of your cup, it means that calm was inside of your cup. If anger comes out, anger was inside. And the goal isn't to become someone who never gets bumped. That's not reality. We need to be in control of what we have control over. You don't have control over everything in life. The goal is to become someone who fills their cup intentionally and someone who cleans out their cup when it has the wrong stuff in it. And that's why self-mastery isn't about controlling life. It's about managing what's happening within you before life tested. So I want you to remember, life doesn't create your reactions. It reveals them. What comes out of you when you're bumped was already inside of you, and you cannot heal what you refuse to notice. This week, I want you to stop asking yourself, who upset me? And start asking, what was already happening inside of me before this occurred? And that question can change everything. I am going to pop into the comments and see if anyone has posted any questions. And if we have any questions, I will answer them in real time. I hope you guys are enjoying the session so far. And one question there. And we have awesome. I see you there on LinkedIn from Germany. I hope you're still there. Hello. I'm glad you're here to listen and learn. Hope you're enjoying. I don't see any questions, so I think I have some more. Yes, perfect. So let me go to this email. Why do I keep going back to people who hurt me? That's a good one. I think we've all experienced that. So let me ask you this. Have you ever sworn that you were done with someone, only to answer the next text message, only to give another chance, and only to find yourself right back in the same situation, wondering why nothing changed? So here's the question. Dear Coach Drew, I keep attracting people who take advantage of me. Friends, relationships, even coworkers. I know they aren't treating me well, but I keep giving them access to my life. Why do I keep repeating this pattern? Have you ever experienced something like this? Type yes in the chat if you have. and maybe share how you dealt with it. But I'll start out with this. And it's a little bit of a difficult truth, right? People don't always get the treatment they deserve. They get the treatment that they repeatedly tolerate. So if you feel like you're not being treated correctly or treated the way you want to be treated, it's not because you deserve that treatment. It's because you have made room for it and you're tolerating it. Yeah, nod with me if you agree. So that doesn't mean that you're weak. I want to get that clear. It doesn't mean you're broken. It means that somewhere along the way, we learn that keeping relationships feels safer than enforcing a boundary. And many people are not afraid of being mistreated. They're afraid of being alone. They're afraid of disappointing others. We're afraid of rejection. So we begin to trade self-respect for temporary connection. But I want you to remember this. Every time you abandon yourself to keep someone else comfortable, you send yourself a message that my needs matter less. The self-mastery journey is learning that boundaries are not walls. They're instructions. They're even bridges. And they teach people how to participate in your life in a way that benefits both of you. So remember this, every yes to the wrong person is a no to yourself. Boundaries don't push people away. They reveal who respects your space. And your self-respect sets the admission price. I want you to ask yourself, where am I asking for change where I should be creating a boundary? Remember, self-mastery reminds us that we're not here to control others. If we're asking someone else to change their behavior, we are trying to control them. When we set a boundary, and some people see boundaries as something that someone else needs to do. Like, well, this person needs to treat me a certain way. That's not a boundary. A boundary is based on what we do. So if this behavior occurs, I will remove myself. I will no longer participate. That's a boundary. Boundaries are not dependent on someone else's reaction. So begin to ask yourself, where am I asking for change when I should be creating a boundary instead? And that very answer may reveal why the pattern keeps repeating. Why the pattern keeps repeating. Next scenario, why can't I let go of what they said? This sounds like classic overthinking, which we've all done. So, has anyone ever said something to you even 5 years ago and you can still hear it like it happened yesterday? One comment, one criticism, one insult, and somehow it rented space in your mind for years without paying a dime. Here's the question. Dear Coach Drew, someone made a hurtful comment about me years ago. Logically, I know I should move on, but I still think about it. Why do certain words stick with us for so long. So the reason that certain comments stick isn't because they were necessarily a powerful comment. It's usually because they attach themselves to something that you already questioned about yourself. It was a sore point that you already had. So if a stranger told you that you were secretly a giraffe, you probably wouldn't spend 5 years thinking about it. Why? Because there's no part of you that believes that. But when criticism connects to an existing insecurity, it feels true. The comment becomes like Velcro. So self-mastery isn't about controlling what people say. It's about deciding which opinions deserve access to your identity. Not every opinion deserves to become part of your self-concept. And if it is an opinion that is sticking with you, it's time to reassess and identify what part of you is identifying with it. Because once you eliminate that, it will no longer attach to you. It will wash right off. So an insult only sticks when it finds a place to land. An insult only sticks when it finds a place to land. I want you to remember that. And other people's opinions are information, not instructions. And don't build your identity from someone else's bad day. I want you to do this. I want you to think about a criticism you've carried for years, and then ask yourself, do I believe this because it's true, or because I've repeated it long enough to make it familiar? Sometimes transformation begins when you stop rehearsing the old wound. Okay, we're going to do one more question. One more question. Why do I feel stuck even though my life looks good? Have you ever achieved the very things you prayed for and still felt restless? This is an interesting concept because for so many, we've had our goals, we work towards them, we achieve them, and then we don't feel successful, we don't feel fulfilled. There's something missing. So the job, the relationship, the house, the success, everything looks good on paper, yet something feels missing. Here's the question. Dear Coach Drew, from the outside, my life looks successful. I have a good career, supportive family, and financial stability. But I constantly feel like something is missing. Why do I feel stuck when I should feel grateful? And that right there, that last sentence, again, the guilt is coming in. The guilt, the self-judgment, which is going to keep that negativity stuck to us. Okay, so this is more common than people realize. Many people spend years chasing goals without ever asking why they wanted them in the first place. Yeah. We achieve the dream and discover that it belonged to someone else, a parent, society, social media, the culture around us. Success without alignment is going to create emptiness every time. We can climb the ladder perfectly and still discover it was leaning against the wrong wall. Type yes in the chat if you agree. We can climb the ladder perfectly and discover it was leaning against the wrong wall. So self-mastery isn't just about achievement. It's about alignment. It's about making sure the life you're building is actually your life, not someone else's dream, not a performance, not a comparison, not an expectation, but yours. Because achievement without alignment leads to exhaustion. And remember, success is not about getting what you want. It's wanting what you are building. Success is not about getting what you want. It's about wanting what you're building. You can be grateful and still desire growth. I want you to ask yourself, if nobody could see my choices, what would I pursue next? And your answer to that question may reveal the difference between the life you've created and the life you were meant to live. So I hope that you have enjoyed these sessions. Please make sure you put any questions or comments in the chats, and I will get back to them as soon as possible. I appreciate you joining us on today's session of Life and Self-Mastery Sessions. Make sure you like and subscribe on the different channels. Follow me. Go ahead and send any questions or comments. Pop them in the chat or in my messages. And I am looking forward to seeing you next time. If you have a question or just a comment that you want featured in the next session, reach out. Let me know. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.